And we are back. Harlem Live is a renowned program for students aged 13 to 21. They're equipping them with the skills to run an online newspaper covering news, investigative reports, opinions, and more. Additionally, students develop valuable public speaking and networking abilities through event coordination, workshops, participation in panels. Now, a recent book was launched chronicling the new journey of New York City teens who pioneered the web magazine. And here now, we are pleased to be joined by the founder and director of Harlem Live, Richard Calton, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So in essence, you're kind of like training people to take my job. Let's get right there. How about that? That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something that they do. One works for a producer for the Sherry Shepherd morning show right now, and worked for Dr. Phil for many years. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So give me a little bit about your background in terms of why you felt like this was so important.
Well, I was a teacher in the public school system in East Harlem, and I was frustrated by, that the schools were really not providing the students with, stuff that made them really engaged with their learning. So I stopped teaching and I learned HTML, and I stayed in touch with a lot of my students where we did a newspaper at the school, and I'm like, hey, there's this new thing called the internet. We started in 1996, and so we just kind of started organically, and it just kind of grew because we were riding the crest of the explosion of the internet. We got a lot of publicity from that.
Right. What was it like for you making that transition?
It was exciting. It was when it was time to go back to the classroom, I'm like, I can't do that now because this was something that I was really passionate about. The kids won the award from the King of Sweden. They were part of the National Smithsonian. They got covered by the New York Times, CNN. So we kind of we're all caught up in this. We felt like we were pioneers. I guess the kids were. They were pioneers.
Right. So the kids who participated in the program, I gave a little bit of an intro as to what they kind of experienced, but give us the experience of what they had.
Say that again?
The experience of the young people. I said I gave a little intro into what it was like, but give us a little bit of the experience of what they had in the program.
Well, I think the biggest thing they got out of it was the ability to, like when we did man on the street interviews, they went out and able to go up to strangers and ask questions. And I mean, even today when I work with young people, sometimes we'll get on the subway, I'll have them play a word game, and I'll give them a clipboard with no pen. I'm like, well, you have to even ask for a pen from someone, and and you'll get farther if you ask them. So just that ability to go up to people and ask, and not being afraid or intimidated about making things happen for their lives. So I think journalism is a great platform. They didn't have to go into journalism, but the skills that they learn in doing journalism, scheduling, asking questions, researching, writing, producing the either video or the website. All of it was student run. I tried to stay in the background as much as possible and have them be the forefront. Whether it was going to talk to people, and they had true ownership of the program.
For yourself, obviously, to expose young people to journalism in that kind of way, that was major. I mean, I think growing up myself, being a Harlemite, and I'm always proud of it, I didn't have the opportunity to have a lot of access to different things.
Right.
For you, knowing that you were providing and bridging this gap, what did that mean for you?
Oh, well, it was honored to work with them. They really carried me forward. I was inspired. Again, I was so frustrated by the schools, seeing the youth being such creative and being so creative and just great. I was motivated by the youth myself. So,
So let's talk about the book. It's called The Legacy of Harlem Live, and as you take a look here, you'll see, and it's a great work in progress, great work of your progress that you've actually made. How long did it take you to really say, I'm going to put the book out?
Well, I've been talking about it for years, but my therapist several years ago, this isn't happening. So I hired a coach who was able to take all my writing and put it into a structure. And then once that happened, it was like, okay, you need to write more here, right here. And then once that took place, it took about 2 years.
And some of the things you talk about in the book, I know one of the things you talk about is, not-for-profit owners and some of the challenges of not-for-profit owners when it comes to this issue of funding.
Yeah.
And there's so many people out there right now that are not-for-profit and really struggling in the area of funding.
we we had that struggle all along. I mean, I for the most part, I never took a salary for myself. Whatever money we got, we used towards the equipment. I was very fortunate to get introduced to Teachers College right away. I had an entree, and I started by volunteering there. They ended up hiring me, and then I started bringing in one kid, then two kids, and three kids, and they saw the kids, and they were inspired by the youth. So having that established that relationship with the college, Teachers College, early on, gave us that stature that that really helped us propel forward, you know. And so I would recommend anyone who does a nonprofit is trying to align yourself maybe with a college or university, you know, to help that process happen.
Right. So what do you want people to take away from your book?
That the youth are so much more capable of doing things that we're not giving them the opportunity to. You know, some people say, "Oh, kids are disinterested and they don't really care and they're just doing TikTok." It's like, no, it's not true. Brian over here, Shaunetta's son, who is here, they're fantastic, and it's like we're just not giving them the trust and the opportunity to really shine. And so I'm hoping that other people are inspired by the book and that they try to start similar ventures in their own communities.
You talked about the word exposure, right? That's pretty much what we're talking about is
Huge,
exposure, right?
huge.
And exposure makes the difference, I think. For any young person to have exposure, it gives them an opportunity to make some life-changing and life-altering, you know, decisions and possible opportunities. When it comes to journalism, it isn't always high on people's lists, right?
No, but it's a great venue because then you put that press badge on and they have a license to be nosy about anything, you know. So it's like if I call you and like, hey, I'd like to do a story about you, like, yo, kid, you know, I'm busy. Oh, I'm doing a story about. I want to do a story about you for my magazine. Oh, you want to do a story about me? Come on, you know. It's like you know. So it opens doors. It gave the students entree. And, you know, they met people like Maya Angelou, Jay-Z, you know, the both Clintons, Obama. They, you know, there was one time when they were doing Donna Brazile was doing a book signing. She was so enamored by the kids, she got them passes to go to the Democratic National Convention in 2004, where they, you know, they met Maxine Waters and Jerry Springer and Obama, you know, before anyone knew who he was, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, that exposure is huge, and it's just, you know, whether they're going to backstage of the Lion King or interviewing the, you know, the editor-in-chief of you know, different magazines, just for them to see, oh, you know, they realize all of a sudden these are opportunities I didn't think about before, you know, just in the process of covering the news.
Yes.
You know.
So for yourself, having such an impact on the lives of these young people and families, what's it been like for you?
I'm fulfilling, utterly fulfilling, because they're all I mean, this was 20, 25 years ago. I'm still friends with them. I'm working with their kids now, and so they're my family. It's like, you know, it's who my family is now, really. Right.
As you mentioned, like, you know, the program isn't really running, but you are working with families.
Yeah, I am working with the alums. In fact, we started creating newsletters for the residents in my building, and we were about to do that in their blocks and buildings, and then COVID hit. Some of the kids moved out of the city, and then also one of the alums, Melvin Johnson, who passed right at the beginning of COVID, he was getting us started on doing a documentary about taking the archival footage that we have from the video and doing current interviews. We did a few of those, and then we were about to go cover the alums in their different fields, and so we're gonna now pick that up. Now that I'm done with the book, I can now start with doing that, and I'm gonna do it with the alumni kids.
So if people want to get their hands on the book or find out more about the book, what do they do?
They can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, or if they're a bookstore, they can order them in bulk from Ingram Spark. So it's available on all the major platforms.
All righty. Well, I want to take a quick break and come back with more. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Listen, we'll take a quick break and be right back right after this. And we are back with a conversation with the founder and director of HarlemLIVE, Rich Calton, and also joining us now, an alumni at HarlemLIVE, Shaunetta Gibson, and she joins us here. And you know, as Rich was talking about the people about impact and really into the lives, I think this is a great testimony here of how you actually been able to pass it down. So, first of all, how long were you with HarlemLIVE?
In high school, I was with HarlemLIVE for 2 years, and then just 2 years ago, my son and my daughter started being active participants with Rich, trying to continue the legacy of HarlemLIVE, getting exposure to media and journalism and stuff.
So for you, what was the driving factor to say, I want to be a part of this?
Oh, well, in high school, I wanted to be active. I wanted to learn new things, and HarlemLIVE seemed like the perfect opportunity to get my hands wet in different areas of my interest. So I definitely was fulfilled by my participation in HarlemLIVE with learning different things. Being a high school student, you know, you want to get experience for college. You want to, you know, just explore.
Right. So it made you feel a certain type of way because obviously now you got the kids involved. So what was it for you to say, kids, come along here, this is what I want you to know?
Definitely. I think the impact on me, I felt that I also wanted my kids to also have access to that same type of impact in regards to having access to gaining experience, knowledge, and hands-on experience with learning different things about, especially media technology, especially where the world is going today. So.
Yeah. And it seems though, well, not it seems though, it definitely was like you're right on part on time, because now you look out, everybody's a journalist, everybody's got their iPhone, they got YouTube, they've got this, they've got that, but you were showing how you could actually do this both in an organized setting and also in an informal setting, way before things really kicked into gear.
Yeah, well, I was that was influenced by my education. I went to NYU, and my major was journalism, but my minor was computer science.
Okay.
And so I was always kind of like into technology. So yeah, that kind of helped my education background.
What advice do you give to people, particularly about our young people, about that exposure, and particularly exposure in the field of journalism, because it's not as popular as it used to be, I think.
Yeah,
And you know, nowadays everybody's got an opinion, and nobody wants to really be a good journalist. But journalism, I tell people, journalism still wins. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd have to rethink the program because so many things have changed. And I thought about it, it's like, what would we do? Maybe we would team up kids of 2 and 3, and they would have their own TikTok channel or something like that. And the thing with ChatGPT, I've been teaching her son Brian, and he, he dived right in. He got right into it. And I don't think we should like try to restrict people from it. I think we should jump right in and show them how to use it and how to amplify their own voices and make sure it doesn't, subsume their voice.
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear in the last one, I was talking to Daniel, he was talking about, really how it's important to get people exposed to, young people exposed to ChatGPT, AI, because you don't want them to get left behind in this digital divide. And I know that's kind of like what you're saying about, about your child. I want to make sure that my child is exposed to
As many things as possible, yes, especially when it comes to advancing technology and stuff, yeah.
Why?
Why? Because I think it's important for our children to grow with the times,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get and it's true. I mean, a lot of people sometimes do get left behind because they just really don't. So for you, having access to exposure to a program, Rich, what he's bought, what has it meant to you?
It's impacted me in several different ways, and it's helped me with my own self as an individual. I was exposed to public speaking, marketing, I did web editing, I did a little bit of everything, and it helped me be a well-rounded individual going forward, yeah. Yeah.
So future, right? Now you're working with the alumni, the kids of the alumni. It's almost like your granddad, right? But talk to me about what's the future look like for you?
Well, like I said, I want to pick up where Melvin left off. Melvin was really like the father figure. He came in early in the program, and he was an influence for everyone. He was a dynamic personality from the Bronx, and he was just I'd be able to stay home with this book if he was still alive. We worked with his sons too, but then they moved to Georgia after the pandemic. But I want to, for one thing, I want to continue with the project he started us on, that documentary, but also to influence and encourage communities to do like those newsletters, to show that young people can do the newsletters at a localized level, like whether it's their building or their block, so they do stories about that will help build community within their immediate surroundings. So I just hope that the book can influence other people to try different things and to also put a lot of trust and know that the kids have a lot more capabilities than sometimes we give them the opportunity.
Yeah. What have you been noticing since your son's participated? Have you noticed, like, okay, he's definitely a little bit more locked in?
Yeah, he's definitely more interested in learning more about certain things. He enjoyed his time with Rich learning about the chat GPT. I think he's ahead of me with that one.
Okay.
He's a little
That's usually how it works, so
he's
just
a
know you're
little
all
bit
right.
ahead of me with that one, but he's definitely engaging and, interested in learning more about, technology and media and stuff.
If I could jump in, anytime I taught the youth anything about technology, it wasn't within months that they went way past what I do.
Right.
So it's almost like you just have to show it to them, and then they take off.
It's like giving them the car, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
next thing you know, they're driving. The next thing you know, you don't see them anymore. So when you talk about the future, obviously, it's really, you did a great job. We talk about closing the digital divide, but really at that day and time, you're doing a great job of closing the digital divide. What do you say to other educators? What do you say to other people? Because we know that, places like Harlem and across the city, you have a lot of underserved people, and they need the access.
They can't be afraid of it. They got to jump in and learn it themselves, because they can't. If they don't, it's going to overtake them, So it's like if you're an educator, it's your duty to find out what makes this work and how to use it, to help the kids, not, So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. So for being a part of the program when you were back there, talk to me about what you had to do, what it was like, because from a student's perspective, what did you have to do?
So we were very independent in building the website. There are different aspects to be involved with.
No, let me cut it. What do you mean by independent? Like you had your own autonomy, you could do what you want to do?
Yeah, for the most part,
Okay.
I got to do a little bit of everything. So Rich was in the background. If you wanted to do web editing, you could do web editing. If you wanted to go do interviews on the street, go out with your press badge and interview celebrities, you could do that. I was more of, I wanted to do a little bit of everything. So I did upload things to the website. I worked with Adobe, Photoshop. I did administrative work. Like I said, I did public speaking. I did event planning, did marketing. I just wanted to have a little bit of everything, and a little bit of all of that is still in me. So
Yeah.
I did the interviews too. I interviewed Akon, Styles P. So I just had an amazing experience being able to, and as a teenager, I think that is powerful for you to be independent, make your own choices, and be organized and dedicated to doing and completing tasks by yourself. Like, I think that was ahead of my time,
Right. Do you feel like that was the catalyst in helping you to find your voice in life?
I think so, because being a part of HarlemLIVE helped me build my confidence, my self-esteem, also being able to approach people, being friendly and, not afraid to, have conversations about certain things, especially with strangers.
Right.
Yeah.
Rich, I was saying that they were talking to me about just this, because we do training here too, and we train our interns in the field of journalism. So, and even studio production. And I said, when you come to the journalism side, there's so much that you learn. You learn, interpersonal skills. You get confidence, right? Because I'm scared to ask the question. You go from being scared to ask the question now to like, all right, lady, stop. It runs the gamut. But there's so many other life skills that actually come through this career that, you look and you see in the lives of the people that you touch that, wow, it's more than just knowing how to do and create a story. It's really creating a storyboard, if you will.
Yeah, and also, just to be proactive about your life, not not to be afraid to go out and make things happen, you know, instead of waiting for them to happen, you know. And one thing I'm really proud about, it's like sometimes the kids were running that program 24/7 between themselves and the alums. We never had to file a police report, never had to go to the hospital. And sometimes they were out, you know, they were out on their bikes, they were going, you know, they were going on their own. We went on trips, domestic and international. We never had any incident.
Right.
You know.
And then to take a program that you just had, like, listen, I'm just going to stop. This is where I'm being led to do, and now you do it. And then you're national and international. Did you ever see that coming?
No. No. In fact, the way that we started was not the way you're supposed to start. I mean, people were like, oh, you got to do this, you got to write a proposal. And I'm like, you know what? Give me a laptop and a couple kids, and we just started doing it. And you know, it just grew organically, you know, and just the same thing we were doing with the book. We didn't do all the, you know, the things that you do when you first come out of a book. I'm like, you know what? We have faith in this story. Let it grow organically. Let the word get out, and it'll grow over time. You know,
So people who want to pick up the book tell them again, they can go to Amazon.
You can go to Amazon, Apple. It looks best on Apple. But Barnes & Noble and Ingram Spark. It's on all the major platforms right now. So.
Yeah. And what advice do you give somebody who may be out there thinking about doing a little bit like what you've done?
Don't. No.
That's what we all tell them, right? Don't do it, right?
No, I mean it's such a rewarding experience to work with youth, and they're so capable. And again, they inspired me. There were so many times. I mean, the challenges that we came up with, a lot of it had to do with space. But time and time again, you know, I'm like, okay, that's it. I've had enough. But the kids are like, no, you know. So, you know, they've kind of propelled me through. And like I said, it's my life is. I feel so blessed having had them in my life, you know, and now they're kids too. So.
Right. What was the hardest part? If you look back and say, oh, what was the challenging part?
Well, for me, it would have been traveling, because I actually lived in Queens, and the program was in Harlem.
Right.
And so I went to school in Manhattan, and I would travel uptown to go to HarlemLIVE, and then I didn't want to leave. I'd be there 8 p.m. and still had to travel an hour and some change back to Queens, and then get up the next morning and go to school. So that was the most challenging part. Everything else almost came naturally. Yeah.
So you said you stayed there all day?
Yeah, after school. That's where I was for those 2 years, yeah.
So here you take the train, you get there, then afterwards you're hanging out there working, then take the train, go back, and then back to school.
Yep.
So it's kind of like you just staying at home. That was about it. But the rest of the time spent in HarlemLIVE.
Most of it, yep, during the weekdays. Yes, after school.
Right. And now your son.
My son, we got a schedule going on with Rich. He's about 3 days a week, 2 days a week.
Yeah, we just started. Well, like I said, I just finished the book, so now I can go back to working with the kids again. But one thing about the space and them wanting to be there, it's important that we create spaces that are not institutional feeling. I mean, we had couches and a hammock and an iguana at one point, you know, and we didn't have fluorescent lighting. And I think that's so important that you have spaces where the kids really want to be there, you know, and that it doesn't feel like school.
Some of the best journalism comes out of non-traditional spaces. And some of the best just learning comes out of non-traditional spaces. I'm learning without even having to feel it. I'm chilling, but I'm really actually learning and really getting.
Yeah, we had plants. We had plants and wood. I mean, it was just. I think it's really important that there's so much space that's available too. And I think one of the things I would like to see is like government give vouchers to nonprofits who can use that towards getting rent. So, because that's a challenge. I know that one of the alums is trying to do a program like this with youth up in Newburgh, and like that's their biggest thing is space. You know, is like trying to find the right space. And again, the challenges that we came up with in the book, some of them were pretty dramatic. All had to go around with come around the idea of space. You know?
Yeah. As I said earlier, I think a good part for you was like you were ahead of the curve, right? And getting ahead of the curve. Do you have any advice for somebody about that? Because I mean, obviously you didn't know that you were going to be ahead of the curve, but you did have a feeling like, hey, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, I would have to say an unspoken theme in the book is serendipity. I mean, it was like I didn't even know that this stuff was going to happen, you know, and so I don't know what to say about that. I timing was like kind of like magically on our side. When we got into that space at 125th, we had no furniture, but then like 2 days later, AOL Time Warner said, hey, we were getting rid of all this, you know, new furniture, that fairly new furniture, and that you know, filled up the whole space. But that's just one example of like how timing again and again just kind of like fell into our lap.
Right.
So.
And if people didn't know where you were located, where were you located?
We had a different locations. The first location I was going around to the kids in their homes, you know, and then we were at Columbia Teachers College, and then we were at a community technology center called Playing to Win. Then we got our own space at 125th, and then we moved to 120 when they were knocking that building down after our lease was up. So we moved to a basement of 123rd, and yeah, we had expanded into the back, and then when they told us that we had to retract and take that space away that we had created in the back area that was outside, that's when I said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. It was like, it was again coming down to space, you know.
Right. For yourself, what would you tell other parents about having your child engaged in technology, journalism, because obviously it's impacted you in such a way that you're passing it on?
Yeah, I think it's important for parents to let their children engage in whatever resources are available to them in their communities, because a lot of communities don't have certain resources. And I think parents should also fight to try to get certain types of resources, especially when it comes to the world of media and technology, because this is a advancing field. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for the future, okay.
Well, I just always say, you know, as a kid, one of the things that drove me as a teacher, I had a stepmother that ripped up my poetry, and that silenced my voice. And so as a teacher, it was always my drive to find what interested kids, what sparked them, and then to nurture that, you know. So one of the things I did as a school teacher was take kids on trips after school, and just seeing them interact with things happening in the city is like, okay, I see what gets their, you know, what gets them excited. So I think it's important for parents to be really in tune to what really turns their kids on, so to speak, and make sure that they provide the resources that kind of like nurture those interests. You know?
Yeah, but I give you major props, because as I hear her say, there's a lot of independence that you created, right? Because when you go into teaching institutions, sometimes that independence is taken away.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, but when you give independence, it gives way to creativity and so many different things that can blossom from that.
Yeah, I think in some more maybe more affluent communities, I think they allow that to happen a lot more than they do in, like, you know, in schools that don't have as much resources. You know?
Take the keys, take the car. Yeah, that's kind of flow. So as we look to the future, obviously people want to get in touch. What do they do if they want to get in touch with you? And we already talked about the book. So.
Yeah, the legacy, the old site that Shaunetta and the rest hit up, that's put up HarlemLIVE.org. We also now have created HarlemLIVE.net, which I'm still working on it, but I'm creating a blog for every chapter so that people can immerse themselves even further. So HarlemLIVE.net or HarlemLIVE.org will drive you to either one of those sites, and to get the book, especially the EPUB version. If you really want to lose yourself into what these kids did, you know, you might click on the word trust, and then it'll link to a video where a kid's talking about how trust was so important, you know.
Wow.
Or we have incredible videos that the kids do, like of Maya Angelou and Stephanie Mills singing Home when Al Sharpton came back from being in jail for that protest in Vieques, you know. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of hidden Easter eggs in the EPUB version.
Yeah, a lot of experience, a lot of exposure. What was the most memorable one for you?
The most memorable one, you caught me off guard with that one. I think being a part of the Harlem Day Parade and being submersed in our culture and being able to have access to behind the scenes. And I think that was memorable because that was my first taste of knowing that I had power as an individual to use my voice to make myself stand out.
Yeah. Well, Shaunetta, I want to thank you for being with us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Passing down the legacy.
Yeah.
Rich, thank you so much for the great work that you've done and you continue to do.
Thank you.
And as I said, I'm always pro Harlem. I'm from Harlem, so anything that you've done for empowerment in the Harlem community gets a special kudos from me. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right.